After the 1857 uprising against British rule in India, the British made a plan for eastern Punjab. They wanted people from agricultural and non agricultural communities to move and settle in new colonies. The British gave large areas of fertile land to elite classes who had helped them during the uprising. These elite people were rewarded with huge pieces of land in these new areas. The provincial government of Punjab also leased out big areas of land to the British military in Okara and nearby districts. This land was used for breeding horses and having stud farms. The British did this for two main reasons. First, giving land to elite and powerful people ensured their loyalty. Second, controlling land in this area protects against any future threats from the northwest borders. By reorganizing who owned lands, the British aimed to make friends with influential communities. This way, they could secure their control over a region that had rebelled against them before. When India was partitioned in 1947, the lands in these canal colonies automatically went to the Pakistani military. The British had originally attracted peasant farmers to these colonies by promising to give them land in return for farming the soil. But this promise was never kept. Instead, generation after generation of peasant families worked these lands under a sharecropping system called Hissa Batai. Under this system, the farmer and their family kept only half of the crops they produced. The other half went straight to the military. So, despite tilling the soil with their own hands, these peasant farmers remained landless for decades. The military reaped the full benefits of their back-breaking labor. What had started as a British scheme to control the region through land distribution transformed into an exploitative arrangement, enriching the Pakistani military at the expense of the very peasants who had been lured there. The year 2000 brought major changes for the peasant farmers of Okara district. As General Musharraf's military government consolidated power, they introduced a new contract system that heavily favored corporate agriculture interests over the small farmers. Under this new system, farmers now had to pay rent in cash instead of sharing a portion of their crop like before. This cash payment was a significant burden on farmers already struggling financially. But it didn't stop there. The new contract severely restricted farmers' access to natural resources like firewood for heating and mud for building homes, resources they had depended on for generations. Perhaps most concerningly, the new contract made it extremely easy for military authorities to evict farmers from the lands they had cultivated for decades, sometimes with just a few days' notice. The new contract was a wave of fear for Okara's farmers. Generations who had tilled these lands could now be legally evicted on a whim. The farmers refused to accept this new clause and, under the banner of ownership or death, started a new movement with the aim of gaining the rights they had grown up working for. They banded together, forming the Anjuman-e-Muzareen Punjab, the Punjab Tenants Organization. United, they hoped to persuade the powerful military authorities to abandon their plans to impose the stringent new cropping agreement. It was a daring act of defiance by the disenfranchised peasant farmers.
ये एक ज़मीन ही नहीं बल्कि मेरे बच्चों का घर है, ये बुजुर्गों की मेहनत है, ये मेरा मुस्तकबिल है और मैं किसी को ये अपने आप से छीनने नहीं दूंगा। ये मेरा घर है और ये मेरा हक है।
Joining voices to protect their ancient bonds to the lands their forefathers had cultivated.
बस अब और नहीं।
A line was being drawn in the fertile soils of Okara. On one side, generational equity and human dignity. On the other, the chilling march of corporate agrarians enabled by military muscle. The women started their own resistance movement against the military, the Thaapas force.
ਦੇ ਖਿਲਾਫ ਮੁਕੱਦਮੇ ਬਣੇ ਔਰ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਨੇ ਆ ਕੇ ਗ੍ਰਿਫਤਾਰੀਆਂ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਕੀਤੀਆਂ ਤੇ ਫਿਰ ਇੱਕ ਜ਼ਿਹਨ ਵਿੱਚ ਇੱਕ ਖਿਆਲ ਆਇਆ ਕਿ ਕਿਉਂ ਨਾ ਔਰਤਾਂ ਅੱਗੇ ਹੋ ਕੇ ਤੇ ਇਸ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਜਦੋਂ ਜਹਿਦ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸ਼ਾਮਿਲ ਹੋਣ ਤੇ ਇਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਜਦੋਂ ਔਰਤਾਂ ਇਹਦੇ 'ਚ ਆਈਆਂ ਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਆਪਣੀ ਥਾਪਾ ਫੋਰਸ ਬਣਾਈ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਉਹ ਇੱਕ ਕੱਪੜੇ ਧੋਣ ਵਾਲਾ ਡੰਡਾ ਚੁੱਕ ਕੇ ਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਲੜਾਈ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਉਹਦਾ ਆਗਾਜ਼ ਕੀਤਾ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੱਥ ਦਾ ਇਸਤੇਮਾਲ ਹੋਣ ਵਾਲਾ ਹਥਿਆਰ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਹੈ ਹੀ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਉਹੀ ਆਪਣਾ ਹਥਿਆਰ ਚੁੱਕਿਆ ਔਰ ਨਿਕਲ ਪਈਆਂ। ਔਰ ਦੂਸਰਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਇੱਕ ਸਫਾਈ ਦਾ ਇਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸ਼ਾਮਿਲ ਹੈਗਾ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਕੱਪੜਿਆਂ ਦੀ ਮਹਿਲ ਕੱਢੀ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਹੈ ਐਸੇ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਹੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਸਾਰੀ इंतजाम।
आखिर और कितने डीएचए बनेंगे, कितने अस्करी बनेंगे और कितने मासूमों की जमीन ऐसे ही छीन ली जाएगी और कुछ नहीं किया जाएगा।
The farmers' defiance was met with an iron fist. The authorities, stunned that peasants dared challenge them in Punjab's heartland, responded with brutal force. Paramilitary forces besieged 18 villages in Okara. Torture, intimidation, harassment rained down on those who resisted. A lot of the resistors were tied up in anti-terrorist courts. We now show a fictional reenactment of this to portray both the army's and people's perspective.
Order in the court. This is a grave case of alleged terrorism and anti-state activities brought against a defendant, a member of the Anjumane-Muzareen-e-Punjab. Army representative, you may begin presenting your evidence.
Thank you, Your Honor. This woman in front of you is no ordinary criminal. She's part of a dangerous organization that serves as a threat to this entire country. This organization is like responsible for road blockades, brazen acts of robbery, and a general disorder in the public sphere.
You have heard the grave accusations against you. How do you plead?
Not guilty, Your Honor. I am not a terrorist, but a farmer, tilling the soil as my family has for generations. The charges against me are lies, peddled by the powerful to crush the legitimate struggle of the oppressed. Anti-army and anti-state are not the same, even if they would like to think otherwise, Your Honor.
Your Honor, I resent these dreadful accusations. It's their organization that's associated with the enemies of the nation, such as the disgusting Al-Qaeda. In fact, in July 2016, our noble forces encountered 6 known terrorists in the village of Chak 28, where they were being housed by senior AMP members, the Jaghar brother. What's more, we raided the house of one of the senior AMP members, and guess what we found? Stockpile of weapons, ammunition, and foreign currencies from countries such as UAE and India. Don't you see? They're collaborating with our enemies to wage terror on our soil. This person here is a traitor and needs to be made an example of.
Please quiet down. The defendant will be given a full chance to present herself. Continue, please.
Your Honor, we are simple peasants who would refuse to accept the new contracts because they would increase our costs, restrict our access to resources like firewood, and make us landless because of these easy evictions. For decades, we gave half our crop yields to the military, and while they haven't even paid rent since 1943, the so-called terrorist encounter was staged by vindictive officials to implicate and evict us. The ammunition and money that they've accused us of, I wish we had that, Your Honor.
Your Honor, this woman is a liar. I swear, they're just trying to disunite the entire colony.
Your Honor, the army is threatened by resistance because we are a diverse movement of Christian and Muslim women and men who are united in the struggle against the mindless power and violence and this injustice going on. It threatens the very narratives and budgets they have derived power from for so long.
What supposed purpose does this land serve the army?
Your Honor, this land plays an important role in cooperative farming in Punjab, which would be beneficial for the entire country.
For us, this land is not just soil, but an emotional connection because it traces back so many generations. We have touched it, fertilized it with our very own hands. It traces back to our family's identity. It is there since generations. These people haven't even paid rent since 1943. How dare they call themselves the rightful owners of the land?
This court has a difficult decision to make. The prosecution's evidence appears circumstantial, while the defendant raises important concerns about civil rights and justice. I will study this matter closely before deciding my verdict. Court dismissed.
ए वतन के सजीले जनरलों, सारे रुकबे तुम्हारे लिए नहीं आखिर, मलकियत या मौत, इंशाअल्लाह।